Lesson 10 for August 31 through to September 6, Living the Gospel, read by Dr. Percy Harold. Tuesday, September 3, Grace and Good Works. Question: Summarize Ephesians 2, 8-10 in your own words. What do these verses tell us about the relationship between grace and good works? Ephesians 2, beginning at verse 8, For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. The Bible tells us that among other things, we were created to worship God and to serve others. Only in our imagination can we try to understand what these acts would be like in a sinless environment. For now, because of sin, we know only a broken and fallen world. Fortunately for us, God's grace, expressed and enacted in Jesus' sacrifice for the sins of the world, opens the way for forgiveness and healing. Thus, even amid this broken existence, our lives become more fully God's workmanship, and God uses us to partner with Him to heal, to seek, and restore the damage and hurt in the lives of others, as we read in verse 10 of Ephesians chapter 2. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. Ellen White writes in the Ministry of Healing, page 103, Those who receive are to impart to others. From every direction are coming calls for help. God calls upon men to minister gladly to their fellow men. End of quote. Again, we do not do good works, care for the poor, lift up the oppressed, feed the hungry, in order to earn salvation or standing with God. In Christ, by faith, we have all the standing with God we will ever need. Rather, we recognize ourselves as both sinners and victims of sin, who are nonetheless loved and redeemed by God. While we still battle with temptations to self-centeredness and greed, the self-sacrificing and humble grace of God offers a new kind of life and love that will transform our lives. When we look at the cross, we see the great and complete sacrifice done for us and realize that we can add nothing to what it offers us in Christ. But this does not mean that we shouldn't do something in response to what we've been given in Christ. On the contrary, we must respond. And what better way to respond to the love that has been shown us than by showing love to others? So to finish today, read 1 John chapter 3, verses 16 and 17. How did these verses so powerfully capture what our response to the cross should be? 1 John chapter 3, beginning at verse 16. By this we know love, because he laid down his life for us, and we also ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. But whoever has this world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his heart from him, how does the love of God abide in him? You have been listening to a reading of the Adult Sabbath School Bible Study Guide by Dr. Percy Harold from Queensland, Australia. This service is brought to you by Hope Channel, the Sabbath School Department, and Christian Services for the Blind. Remember, God is always faithful.